Welcome back to Royals Corner, where we bring you the most meaningful and inspiring moments from royal families around the world. I'm so glad you're here today because what I'm about to share with you is absolutely extraordinary. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because you don't want to miss stories like this one that remind us why the monarchy still matters in 2026. Picture this: inside the walls of a grand palace, laughter and tears mingle together. Survivors who witnessed humanity's darkest hour sit beside kings and queens. But this isn't just another royal reception with polite handshakes and formal photographs. What happened at this gathering will restore your faith in the power of remembrance, and by the end of this video, you'll understand why one 98-year-old survivor said it was the most important moment of my life since liberation. Stay with me, because the story I'm about to tell you proves that some royal duties transcend ceremony, they become sacred. When Holocaust survivors and their families received invitations to a special reception hosted by the King and Queen, many couldn't believe it was real. After decades of sharing their testimonies, fighting against denial, and watching the world slowly forget, here was recognition at the highest level. But this wasn't going to be your typical royal event. Behind palace doors, months of preparation had gone into making sure this would be deeply personal, profoundly respectful, and absolutely unforgettable. The palace staff worked with Holocaust education organizations to understand exactly how to honor these guests. Every detail mattered, from ensuring kosher food options to creating quiet spaces for those who might become overwhelmed by emotion. This was royalty at its finest, service with profound humanity. Among the guests were men and women who had survived Auschwitz, Bergen-Belsen, Dachau, and countless other camps whose names still send chills down our spines. Some had been children who lost their entire families. Others had hidden in attics, forests, and convents. Each person carried stories that textbooks can only begin to capture. One survivor, 96-year-old Ruth, had been separated from her twin sister at the gates of Auschwitz and never saw her again. Another guest, David, age 99, still bore the faded tattoo on his forearm, a number that the Nazis gave him instead of a name, trying to erase his identity. But here he was, nearly 8 decades later, standing in a palace, his humanity not just restored but celebrated. The families who accompanied them, children, grandchildren, and even great-grandchildren, represented something the Nazis tried to destroy: the continuation of Jewish life, culture, and joy. Each descendant was living proof that evil did not win. As the king and queen entered the reception hall, something remarkable happened. The usual formal protocol seemed to melt away. This wasn't about maintaining distance or royal mystique. The king immediately began moving through the crowd, not with hurried handshakes but with genuine conversation. Witnesses say the queen spent nearly 20 minutes with one survivor, listening intently as she shared her story, holding her hand when emotion took over. There were no photographers rushing them along, no aides checking watches. Time, it seemed, had been set aside for what truly mattered: bearing witness. One of the most powerful moments came when the king knelt beside a wheelchair-bound survivor who had lost the ability to speak after a stroke. Rather than moving on awkwardly, he stayed there, at eye level, communicating through presence alone. The survivor's daughter later said her father, who hadn't smiled in months, beamed with joy. You might wonder, why host this reception now, in 2026? The answer is heartbreakingly simple: time is running out. Holocaust survivors are now in their late 80s, 90s, and beyond. Within the next decade, we will lose the last living voices who can say, "I was there. I survived. I remember." Recent statistics are sobering. Surveys show that a shocking percentage of young people don't know basic facts about the Holocaust. Some don't even know what Auschwitz was. Denial and distortion are spreading on social media platforms faster than education can keep up. By hosting this reception, the king and queen sent an unmistakable message: we will not forget. We will honor these survivors while they're still with us. We will ensure their stories outlive them. Perhaps the most touching part of the event was when the younger generation of royal family members interacted with the survivors' great-grandchildren. Here were young people from vastly different worlds, connected by a shared commitment to memory and understanding. Several survivors' descendants spoke about their determination to continue sharing their family stories. One young woman, whose grandmother survived Ravensbrück, now volunteers at a Holocaust museum. A teenage boy, whose great-grandfather survived the death marches, has started a social media campaign to combat anti-Semitism and Holocaust denial. The royal family's younger members listened, learned, and made their own commitments to Holocaust education and remembrance. This wasn't just a one-day event, It was the beginning of an ongoing relationship between the monarchy and Holocaust memory organizations. As the reception drew to a close, something unprecedented happened. The survivors and their families began singing, first softly, then stronger. They sang songs from before the war, songs of resistance, songs of survival. Palace staff reported that many were in tears, moved by the power of these voices that Hitler tried to silence forever. The king and queen didn't retreat to their duties. They stayed. They listened. And when the singing ended, the applause from the royal hosts was thunderous. One survivor said it best: "They didn't just invite us. They saw us. Not as victims, not as history, but as human beings whose lives matter, whose stories matter, whose presence still matters." This reception at the palace wasn't just about looking backward at history, it was about affirming values that must carry forward. In an era where hatred is once again rising, where anti-Semitism is spiking across Europe and beyond, the king and queen used their platform to stand firmly on the side of remembrance, dignity, and never again. The survivors who attended have now mostly returned to their homes, but the impact of that day continues to ripple outward. Photos from the event are being used in Holocaust education programs. The survivors' stories, recorded by palace historians, will be preserved for future generations. And young people watching coverage of the reception are asking questions, learning, and understanding why this history must never fade. As we lose the last survivors, events like this become even more precious. They remind us that behind every statistic, every number, every historical fact, there were real people, people with names, families, dreams, and an unbreakable will to survive. Here at Royals Corner, we believe that the best of royalty isn't about crowns and ceremony, it's about using privilege and platform to honor human dignity, to amplify voices that deserve to be heard, and to ensure that the lessons of history are never forgotten. If this story moved you, please share this video. Let's make sure these survivors' courage reaches as many people as possible. Hit that like button, subscribe to Royals Corner, and turn on notifications so you never miss our coverage of the moments when royalty rises to its highest purpose. What do you think about this reception? Have you heard Holocaust survivors speak? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep this important conversation going. Until next time, this is Royals Corner, reminding you that some royal duties are sacred, and some moments transcend history to touch eternity.